Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Suzanne Worthley back with my co-host, Kim Hess.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, really good.
Good, good. This one's going to be fun. We are back with another series of our podcast, Energy Unleashed, where we go through some of my actual client sessions that I do as a practitioner. I share some of their information with their approval on an anonymous basis. And I kind of get into what they're dealing with because oftentimes we find ourselves doing very similar things as other people. And that's why these are kind of really awesome to bring forward. And I appreciate them allowing me to do that. And then I sort of toss in what I give them as far as advice or assistance in healing that particular issue. And then we toss it into Kim's arena so that she can kind of, like we call it, unleash it or bring it deeper or dig it out more so that we can really bring forward all kinds of information that hopes that resonates with you all. So hopefully if you're getting this video, you share it, you like it. We appreciate your support and thank you for being here. Alrighty, so Kim, this one is really actually something that came up recently, but I've had this client for quite some time dealing with the same issue. But when we were deciding, what to talk about, this seems to be a sort of prominent one, and it is all about labeling ourselves. So I'm going to go into it a little bit and then we'll get you chimed in. This particular client is a gentleman who is now a family man. He was I don't know if he was an only child, but there wasn't many siblings, very close to his parents, which are now no longer here on planet. And he had a great relationship with them. But in that growing up time period, he took on the label as being the good kid. He took on that label as I'm really a good kid. And a lot of people do this. And again, take what resonates on all of these, everybody that's listening, and toss what doesn't. But oftentimes we find in healing work that it's difficult to hold that label of the good kid. Now, we have all kinds of labels. I'm going to throw out a couple other ones. You're the oldest in the family. You're the one that's the smartest. You're the creative. You're the mess up. You're the this or that. So we have all kinds of labels that we will put on one another throughout our lives. But I'm going to concentrate on this particular one with this client because what happens when we do this particular label, and it would be similar to other labels, but specifically when we say I'm good, what happens is oftentimes we want to be bad in the background. We often want to find, okay, I'm going to play out that thing that I don't feel comfortable doing that my parents might find out about in a different way. And that can really be detrimental to how our lives are because many times we become secret in terms of what we are doing because we think it doesn't fit. We think it doesn't be approved of. We think that we are a bad person. So good versus bad gets really, really difficult. And when we talk about source energy, a lot of people still put God on a cloud as a he, and that's fine and dandy if that's your thing. But in terms of energy, source energy just is. And there isn't actually a judgment of good and bad. Who judges good and bad behavior when we go through the death process is ourself and our higher self and our God source version of ourself. This is the judgment that we actually go through. And oftentimes we're doing that on planet as well. We're judging ourselves. And so this can be a really difficult pattern and it can really get messy and it can cause all kinds of shame. And when we work with the client that has shame, what happens in the head area is the more shame someone holds, the more their head goes down. Now imagine, I feel shameful, so my eyes go down to the ground and my head kind of drops. But if I have a lot of shame, it drops further and further and further. And then oftentimes we will have that person who has pride and they will jerk that head back up. Now, we're not literally doing up, down all day, but it's an energetic response on a subconscious narrative that then works that neck bone constantly like a hinge. And we will find those top neck bone areas in the base of the skull to be really, really out of whack, causing headaches, causing shoulder pain, causing my throat to shut down, and so on. So this can become a very physical fight in our body. And oftentimes as well, we will find ourselves struggling negative energy, positive energy, good energy, bad energy, right and wrong. All of these things will be an inner fight within the energy field. So this kind of a person is at deep unrest on a subconscious level. And so what that looks like is exhaustion, fear, reactions very quickly, etc. So it can go all over the board, but those are kind of like the most common ones that come to the surface, especially the head thing. So does that even resonate with you, Kim, that I'm talking about how people,
I don't know.
as your head is dropping?
Oh my God.
Okay, seriously, your head just goes clunk.
I know, I did that on purpose. It's most of what you described has been my experience, basically, because I was a peacemaker, so I wanted to be good.
Okay.
But I would do things. I was not perfect, don't get me wrong. I was definitely not perfect, but I would do things, I think, to get attention sometimes that were not nice when I was a child.
Can you
Or
give us an example of what that means?
well, like my sister was really sick, and so she
Okay.
took a lot of attention. And my parents were, they were doing their best with everything that we had. It was not abusive or anything like that, but there was just, I think I would get to a point where, all right, I'm here, I need to be seen. And like one example that comes to my head, this is so bad. We had a couch down in our basement where we played, and I removed all the buttons, I think, off the couch. And my parents were
Nice.
so angry with me, and I felt so bad that I did it. But then again, they saw me. I guess I got attention for that.
Right.
I think that was part of it. So to be the peacemaker and be considered, good, you're capable, be independent, do your thing. It was hard because you didn't get everything you were looking for either. Um,
Yes,
from a attention or love perspective.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I know your family situation well enough that you were greatly loved and you knew you were loved. And yet this kind of a concept is really typical for many kids, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're still doing our best to get outside validation all the time, whether it's that A on the report card or, I did great in the science, project. It's looking outside of ourselves anyway, even if we have a great growing up. And God forbid if we don't have a great growing up, this is when we start to really act out and be the screw up in the family and the black sheep in the family. So a lot of people will take that MO on. That'll be their, this is my label. I'm the
And
black sheep.
that's so understandable when
Hmm.
you're just starving for that, to be seen and heard,
Yes.
that you go out in the world. And I guess the only way that I can be seen and heard is to be bad.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of sense to me, but I didn't hit the ground running doing that. I wasn't extremely bad or, I had my moments though.
But did that affect you in adulthood as well? I mean, did you
Yeah.
carry that narrative into adulthood in any way in terms of having to be the good one still in the family?
Yeah, I think that I work really hard, and I have for a long time, to try and ease things for my parents. And so my perception, my drive was that I lost a sister not long after she was born, and my other sister was pretty sick. And my parents, we didn't have money, we didn't have a lot of things. So they were working really hard to provide for us and take care of us, especially with medical bills and all of the things. And um, so when going through that, I um I do things like plan meals. Like when I go down to my parents, okay, what are we making? I'll bring this, I'll bring that, I'll take care of, I'll make that. Oh gosh, and I'll bring the pretty napkins with me because that's really fun. And we want to be having fun when we're together, so let's make sure, we get everybody there and let's have a really nice time, that whole, because I'm trying to bring everybody together, be the peacemaker, and let's just enjoy each other.
Right.
So it definitely comes through in adulthood, and I can see exactly the types of behavior that I picked up that my daughters have picked up to an extent.
Because we
Like,
pass it on. Yeah.
right, the house needs to be clean when you have people over, and you need to have the right kinds of food and drink and be merry and all of the things. And they do a fabulous job of all of that, when
Yes.
they entertain. But I feel bad because I know that came from my behavior as an adult. I trained them to do kind of the same thing. And so we've talked about it and they get it, but the whole part of it is there are parts we enjoy of that,
Yes.
to entertain and do those things, but there are parts that become burdensome. And the expectations of ourselves are what becomes a burden on ourselves.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
just hit the energetic tack of this. And the reason why we do this podcast and unleash those things is to find how everything relates to your energy, and in the way of, I have fuel that is bringing this body throughout the day, which is my consciousness connection to source. And that fuel can either be negative fuel or positive fuel. It is either pushed in fear or it's pushed in love. So being the one that wants to, assist the parents and have a really lovely party. And if I want to buy the napkins just because they're so dang cute, that is a different thing than I have to have the right napkins to match these plates, and I'm going to stress about it. Those are two different fuels. And so I really want the listeners to understand that this doesn't bash the process of being. In fact, I write pretty open the light, shine the light on me in my new book, Confident Empath, on what I did to be the one. I mean, I throw myself 100% under the bus and say, I created that belief system of having to be the one, but it was so in a negative fuel. It was so detrimental. And that's what we're talking about, that is negative to the body, because you're doing it under the umbrella of I have to, I need to, I should, and not I get to and I'm choosing to. If I'm choosing the cute napkins because they make me smile, that's different than I have to have it all in perfect order.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does, because
Yeah.
there were things that I don't have those same expectations anymore. I
Right.
get what I like, and if I don't get it, that's okay too, and just have a good time.
Right. And I
Um,
think that that's beautiful. This particular client that I'm talking about is even got a tougher realm because of the fact that his parents are now gone. And I think some people think that people watch them from above, which indeed they may, right? But remember, when our parents are gone and they're on the other side of the veil, they're not sitting there with judgment. They don't have a 3D personality any longer. They are completely omnipresent in terms of energy. And they're not sitting up there going, oh, you're a bad kid because I can see you doing this behind closed doors. That's not how this works. But a lot of people do believe that spirit does that. So we can still be guilt-ridden by our parents after they're dead. And I think that people maybe want to look at that a little bit differently if they choose. So this particular person is very aware of his physicality in terms of taking care of himself, and really enjoys that and really works at it hard. And then when he will do his so-called secret indulgences, he'll hunker down and sugar himself up for a good couple days, and he gets really, really scared and begins to almost panic attack, because it in the past has had panic attacks. But we were discussing the other day, the panic attack is not technically from the sugar. The panic attack is from the guilt and the I'm hiding and the I should and I shouldn't. And so we work together quite extensively on panic attacking, because these can be very detrimental to your life. They can shut you down. They can stop you in your tracks, right? And those are scary. But when we equate the panic attack more so to the belief of now I'm being bad and my body's going to take a hit for it. See, this mental manipulation goes farther. I not only want to do something in secret that nobody knows because I want to be that bad thing, but now I'm going to even add on to it more, because now I'm going to do the bad thing and it's going to come back and kick me in the butt.
right.
And that's what's happening in this regard. And with many, it's not just him. I see this oftentimes because this is a thing that we do to self-validate that I shouldn't have been bad. And I would like to give everybody permission. You get to do whatever you want to. Remember, these lives of ours are filled with free will. We get to do anything we want to. That said, it's a cause and effect. We have free will. We get to choose what we want to do, but there is always a cause and effect reaction. It's a law of the universe. And so I would maybe want to step back and say, yeah, I'm going to eat this sugar, but is my body going to take a hit? If I'm going to eat the sugar, great, do it without guilt and then fast the next day. Whatever you have to do to yin that yang, so that you're not going in this roller coaster of shame and guilt, is really a little bit better way to look at it.
Right. And then some behaviors would bring out things that you can't take back, and other people are for sure going to know. Like eating
Yes.
sugar on your own in your body takes a hit. It's still your own private bad,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But to, end up in jail because you were doing something bad is something that you really can't keep a secret anymore.
Right. Right.
That more are aware of it. So,
and a lot of times the jailbird and the person that's doing that route is actually starving for attention, like you were saying earlier. The one that continues that path and becomes the black sheep and lives it out to the max is because the self-worth is gone.
Mhm.
And they're actually looking for the validation that they still are worth something, but they put it so far outside of themselves that the return on that effort is not happening. So it's really a difficult thing to decide what is right and wrong, because there really isn't a right and a wrong in terms of source. It's our perception of right and wrong, not only as an individual, but the company that we keep. And if we have the company that we keep being our work people, our family people, our neighborhood people, whomever it is, our people,
Mhm.
if I'm worrying about all of them more so than me, meaning I'm going to make you know I'm the bad guy, or, oh, God forbid, I'm hiding, I'm the bad guy. All of these things are extra stressors when we put it out to those audiences.
Absolutely. That's a lot
Yeah.
of pressure to put on yourself, energetically. I mean,
Yes.
that, like I said before, it's just a burden on your whole system.
And I think when I work with my clients and I teach individually and or in group setting, I do my best to allow people to really entertain the thought that we almost have a responsibility to see all of the shards of who we are in this incarnation, meaning this. Just because I am, doing spiritual work and I'm a healer and I'm doing all these things doesn't mean that Suzanne doesn't have the capacity to go big and nasty if need be. And if I choose to go big and nasty, I'm going to make that choice, because at this point in my life, I'm recognizing I'm choosing that choice, and I will go in fully owning the consequence on that choice. Now, because I've been doing this for a long time, it's rare that I'm just reacting and then feeling guilty.
Mhm.
But for example, just because you do spiritual work doesn't mean that you all are bunnies and rainbows every day. And back when my daughter was in high school, she was being really bullied. And I distinctly remember a time she called me hysterical from the office because there was a really lot of stuff going on. And I jumped in my car and I flew down to that high school, and I had my big black cape on. And a lot of people already, you know, labeled Mrs. Worthley as a witch because they knew what
Tell
I
which,
did, which I
yep.
thought was super funny anyway. So I come flying through this door, which is almost like one of those doors that you open and it goes whoosh with the vacuum of air anyway. And it's got the little hall monitor lady sitting at the front of the desk where you have to sign in. And it was an exchange of classrooms at that time. And this particular hallway was where the two flows of traffic with students was going through. And when I walked through that door, I saw my daughter in the corner bawling her eyes out with some friends. And I stormed in and my cape was flapping. And I was so pissed and I was so mama bear and I was so angry. And I flew by that woman and she tried to talk to me and I threw my hand up like stop sign. And she just threw both of her hands up and sat
Backed away.
and my aura was pounding through that foyer like you wouldn't believe, and the student body opened up like Moses doing the river. I mean, it was hysterical when I look back at it, but I didn't care. I was so angry on behalf of my daughter that I was willing to do anything at that point in time, and I would have taken any consequence. um Long story short, in this, it actually worked out well in that we went in and spoke with the principal, who had, are you ready for this? A wife who did Reiki. And so they understood energy in their family. And so it was really kind of great in terms of how the conversation went down, et cetera. So it all worked out great. But my point in telling that story is just because you're a healer or you're a spiritual person or all those silly labels we give ourselves doesn't mean that I'm going to fight come hell or high water for my daughter in terms of being safe. And I will own that until the cows come home, right? I mean, that is what it is. And I will take any consequence that comes out of that. So my suggestion to my people when I work with them is that make sure that you own it fully and you're fully owning any consequence that comes out of it. And then you are working in a divine fractalization of who you are in soul self, because we don't get to just be lovely. It isn't possible.
Right.
We are designed to be all. And so it's important to stand back and look at that with different eyes if you choose.
Well, and when you decide to be good and that you're going to take care of things, you also become a controller, right?
Good
You
point.
are manipulating and you're controlling and you're making sure things are exactly like the way you want them to be. And with that, you can be very tough on those around you trying to get there,
Yes.
And so it's not that it even in the intention is I'm good and I'm going to take care of this. I really am not. And I'm making people miserable around me.
Yep.
You know, it's a really tough role. And
I was really good at it though.
I know.
Back in the day. I mean, back when I was corporate, before I knew any of this stuff, I was the
Yeah.
drill sergeant beyond drill sergeants. In fact, my kids still to this day just shake their head.
If I
And
get a
thank God,
spreadsheet out, my family runs the other way.
yeah. And thank God now, all these years later, I gathered my kids just recently, by the way, and they're all adults for any listeners that don't know me. And they're all adults. And I gathered them at a holiday recently. And I said, I just want to say, forget everything I taught you, like everything I did and everything I taught you. And then re-choose whatever resonates for you, because I just didn't know, right? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know about energy back then. I didn't understand that my need to be the one was taking control of absolutely everything. So, you know, we are choosing all day long. And the purpose of doing energy work individually and collectively is for us to understand that we do have free will choice on this planet. This is our birthright. So when we take these things on, we do what's called creating our story. And this is another dangerous piece that I write about in the Empath book, in terms of, we then create a story about ourselves. We create the story that I'm the one, or I'm the good girl, or I'm the one that's going to take care of everybody and everything. So we will do this story because it's the narrative that we want to put on as a mask and or a personality, shining out to the world. This is who I am. And this can be in terms of so many things: family beliefs, religion, society, community, you name it. Our story comes from these learned belief systems and weaves into this. Like I said, Kim and I both brought forward belief systems that came into fruition when we became the good ones. So these are mental narratives that are sometimes beneficial, but most of the times not, in terms of if it is draining you and you are pushing and you are ramrodding. And I don't mean in the instance of flying into the school one afternoon. I'm talking repetitive action. Right. And so if we are finding that repetitive action as a narration of our individualized story, usually it is driven by some false truth underneath that we have not been able to make peace with or even be aware of, by the way, and it becomes a mental loop pattern, which then facilitates the actions and the emotions. So this is things like, now think of the things that we do as humans. Oh my God, now I'm like, 60 and I need to find a job, but I'm too old. I can't go back to work. I'm not good enough. Or, oh, I hate my job, but I can't leave it because I'm just too old. I mean, I'm not smart enough. I can't get that. Or, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Oh my God, you can do that. I'm not creative at all. Or we can't go on that vacation because we don't have enough money, or on and on and on. So these are the loop narratives that then support that really wacko, off balance sense of worth and self. And it's important for us, if we're doing healing processes, to notice what's coming out of our throat, because the voice chakra, the truth chakra, will solidify that narration and it will make it even deeper.
Oh, and it comes back to, I said expectations before, but responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
Responsibility is like one of the biggest reasons that I took on so much in my job and through the family.
Yes.
It was because I was the one that was going to do it. I could do it better. And, think about, when you're talking about all this and going through this, how many people I excluded because they just couldn't do it as well as me. And I wanted all of the validation that I was the one that could do it. And I did a great job.
And society does a real dishonor to us in terms of the better you are, the more money you make, because that's how we equate it. So we think of safe and enough with a paycheck. And even if we don't get a paycheck in a corporate realm, we're still doing that somehow with validation. So, this starts from the very beginning. So it's critical for us, if we're choosing to move through this, to look at what were my narratives. Am I the big girl? I was one of the big kids. There were 6 of us. The big kids took care of the little kids. So I already was given that narrative that I had to take care of somebody. I never felt I got to or I chose to. It was I had to. And this facilitated more and more throughout life. Or conversely, are you the baby in the family, which means I get away with everything? And I cannot tell you how many clients come into my office and sit down in that chair and make a relative statement in one way or another to the pecking order of the family, because that's ownership and we all do it. It's so interesting, right?
Even
For the
with
middle
two
kid who's ignored,
children,
that's my favorite.
Well,
Yeah.
that just even the two children in my family, our characteristics are so oldest, youngest, you know,
Yep.
it's amazing. Just so if you have six in your family, or I can't imagine, you have all kinds of different archetypes sitting in
Oh
in
God.
the lineup.
And the hero and the this and the that. And then God forbid in my family structure, there's one boy out of 5 girls. Can you imagine that programming as well? I mean, if we have that kind of a quotient, percentage, it's like now I have to be the boy. And oftentimes there's a girl that's actually got more qualities of the boy than the boy, and that will cause problems as well. So these things are really difficult, and it's all coming down to understanding the secret part of it is very detrimental, because we are really feeling secrets destroy. Okay, let's put it that way. Secrets destroy all kinds of things. And when we have secret lives and we're doing things behind the door, and I'm not saying sugar's a horrible thing. Of course, it's fun to binge on something, but do it without the guilt and the shame, because the secret of guilt and shame will destroy your actual body and fields. It will destroy your heartfelt space, because the secret is what is killing you more than the sugar and or anything. And I mean, this can go to huge extents about perversions. This can go to, I show myself this way and behind closed doors, I'm a completely perverted person and no one knows it. Or I show myself as this great family man or woman and behind closed doors, I'm actually a cheater and a liar. I show myself as, providing, and over here I'm gambling. We have, or I'm fascinating and I'm wonderful and I'm perfect and I'm drinking like crazy. And so secrets will destroy that as well, but to the nth degree.
Right.
And so that's one of the things.
That brings in
Yeah.
addiction. I mean, I would think that that is a huge part of healing from addictions.
Yes, the
Is understanding the
secretness.
secrets and what is buried there. Yeah.
And so addictions, to really move through them, are to own the fact that I can be all of these different fractalized versions of myself without guilt and shame, as long as I'm doing it from a place of balance and self-love. And I don't need to be doing it all the time. The addiction comes in because I'm going to do it again and again and again and again and again to validate that I'm no worth. And so, yeah, these kinds of behaviors can be very, very dangerous. So
Yeah, when you
it's
think you're getting
difficult.
away from something or getting away with something, you're really not.
No,
getting away with it. So
that's why a lot of people think the dead people are watching. And I'm not joking. It's really funny. I am in oftentimes at a classroom, or I'm doing a psychic gallery, where people do exactly what you just did. They look up, they look upward, like, who's watching? Even as, is there an angel watching, or is there an alien watching me do this? I mean, it's funny what I've come across. And this is very typical of the human. And I think it's kind of, I probably have done it myself, right?
Well, I do it when I do something stupid. I'm like, all right, who's watching? I'm sure this was hilarious to you.
Right. Well, I think the alien realm is watching us 24/7 with a bowl of popcorn going, really?
We are a shit show. Yep.
Yeah, really? Is that really what's going on down there? Okay, well, so in essence, to round this up a little bit, I think what is important in terms of any of this stuff, if you choose, is to know that we have the capacity in a human incarnation to be everything if we try, if we want to, if we choose to. In that respect, cause and effect is a universal law that we will live with. And cause and effect doesn't always have to be negative, because we're always thinking bad stuff. It's karmic return. Karmic return and cause and effect can be great stuff. This can be awesome and beautiful and wonderful stuff, right? It doesn't have to be, so think about the things that you're doing in life to grow your personality and to bring forward things that you maybe haven't done before, and expand on that. And remember, if I did something, I don't have to do it all the time. And I can always atone, because this is part of the process of humanity too. If I did step over a line, I have the ability, if I choose, to atone. And so it's the process of working on self first, and finding that this is a personal judgment, not somebody upstairs is going to get me when I'm dead and now I'm in trouble. Okay. Kind of a thing like that.
Because the most important part is to get back to that neutral space of, when I go back to visit my family, it's there are certain trigger things that I still have had come up where I am more reactionary than neutral. Right. So working to be neutral, to step back and say, wait, that's not mine. This is all a trigger. And
Right.
I don't have to react to that. It's not mine to react to.
And let's unleash that just a second further before we're gone here in terms of, let's do the sugar again. If I'm binging on sugar, using the body for truth is important. If my body is actually reacting violently to the sugar and I don't like it and it feels like crap and I continue it in an abusive way to self-loathe, that is completely different than I'm enjoying the hell out of this sugar right now because I'm having a great time with my kid or myself or whatever. And I don't feel the human reaction. And I watch and I observe the next 24 hours to really validate and say, and my body is still fine. It's the guilt and the shame that was pushing me into the panic, not the sugar. And so these are things that are really important for us to step back into neutral, like you said, stay in neutral before we know the true feel and emotion, because then we can own it fully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, believe me.
I know. Hey, but we're doing better. Like I said, I threw myself completely under the bus in Confident Empath. I told the whole story about being the one and how it didn't work out real well. So I came clean, but I still work on it every day, right? I mean,
every day.
It's always
Every day.
something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Well, awesome. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will be back soon with some more client issues and solutions very soon. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share the button, and
leave a comment, please.
We would like to know what you would like. We will be there for you and pull up the stories that are appropriate. So until next time, everybody, on behalf of us, Cosmic Hugs.
Goodbye.